Yes. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We've got another web chat ready to go. And this one's a little bit special for me. I was reaching out to some various people from my past, really people that I thought it'd be cool to reconnect with and talk to. Some people were nice enough to answer, and some people probably don't check, Facebook anymore. They gave that up a long time ago. So pleasure for me to reconnect with this guy. I want to introduce you to him. This is Mike Lupenec, and he's actually my head coach from back in my university soccer days. So thank you for joining me, and hello to you, sir.
Hello, how you doing, Dubes?
There it is. Yeah, you guys are going to hear some old school nicknames now. So when I got out of high school, I had the opportunity to go play soccer in the U.S. And I was saying to Ali yesterday, actually, this guy took a big chance on me. He saw my name on a list, and he saw me in a video, and he thought, well, you're saying you're 6 feet tall. I'll take a shot. And so he brought me out to visit the school, and ended up obviously, committing to the school and spending 4 years there. So, really kind of cool for me. And when I talked to Nastasia on the chat a couple of days ago, we talked about taking that big leap. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. You bet on yourself, and you go and you make the best of whatever's there. This has to be the best success I've had in taking a big leap. So it was going to be fun to be able to have a chat with Mike and sort of revisit a little bit of that. But it's not about me. It's about him. I learned a lot from him, and I was curious to catch up and see how things have changed in the time that I've been gone and graduated. So, Mike, if you can, do you want to just tell us a little bit about, like, I know you were a player. How did you transition from being a player to being a coach? How did you end up making that a big chunk of your career? How'd that come about?
Well, to be honest with you, right after I played at college at Oakland University, so I got a college scholarship just like you did. Left the city, Welland, Ontario, and at the time, my twin brother Morris was at Oakland, and I decided to take a different route out of high school. I went to St. Thomas University, actually, in New Brunswick. So I went over there with a friend. Didn't really have any aspirations of going to the United States. Played soccer over there for St. Thomas. Went to school there for a year, then came back, realized that wasn't a place that I really wanted to be in. Talked to my brother. He told me that, there wouldn't be a problem for me to actually play on the team that he was at Oakland University. So went down there and made a visit. And the following year, I had to go to school, junior college in the summer to get enough credits to go to Oakland, but accomplished that, and then went to Oakland University, played there for 3 years. And then after I graduated, played professional soccer for Windsor Wheels, which at that time probably was the only professional league you could play in the NSL. I was fortunate enough to play there for 3 years, and we won actually the Canadian Championship. Beat Montreal Impact, who basically were the best team in Montreal at the time. It wasn't an MLS team yet, but it was a tough match. We beat them 1-0, and that record still stands in Windsor, that we're the only team to ever win a Canadian Championship at that level. After that, I knew a gentleman by the name of Louis Stankovic, who was on the men's side. And at the time in Detroit, there wasn't a women's soccer program. So Louis Stankovic was a friend. I coached his son in club, David, who eventually went to Detroit also. And, he offered me a position of being an assistant coach. So I was an assistant coach for 2 years there. Then when the men's job opened up, my brother Morris had more experience on the men's side, and he was with Oakland University, was able to be the head coach. So I was his assistant for a year. And then when the women's job opened up, Brad Kingsman asked me if I would be interested. And I said, why not? I tried this, and, the rest is history. I mean, it was a big transition period for me. And to be totally honest with you, I mean, Brad was a great mentor because he allowed me to make mistakes. And without his support, I don't think I would have been there in the earlier years to have the success I had. He understood I was young. He understood where I was coming from on the men's side, and some of the things that I probably in those days couldn't get away with on the women's side. So, uh, I mean, and that's how I started college soccer.
That's awesome. It's weird. For some reason, I don't like. I'd forgotten that you started off on the Canadian side. I always thought you were pretty awesome for recruiting north of the border and taking on Ontario players. But it makes a little bit more sense if that's where you came from. You know what we're all about. That's cool.
Correct.
So
And I think what people don't realize is, I always stress education and developing the player. And with Canadians, I mean, I felt that I had that rapport with them, and they trusted me more than an American coach coming over, and I took advantage of that.
yeah, totally. I mean, the majority of the years that I played, I think close to half the team was from Ontario, and half the team was from states in and around the university, and then ended up with me from the West Coast for some reason. But yeah, we actually had a nice balance. So even though I was at school in the States, there were kind of half and half. Windsor and Detroit were nice and close, so it kind of allowed us to stay in contact. So what I'm curious about, because I've had different themes for these web chats. For the most part, the audience that I assume is watching these are my students that are trying to become personal trainers, or they've recently completed their certification, they're getting into the job. And sometimes that means they're young and this is like their first job, their first career. And sometimes it means they are a little bit older, they've had a different career, but they wanted to do something that they were more passionate about. They wanted to do a job that had more reward than just, the paycheck. So there is a really big, you've got to have passion to do this job. It's kind of like coaching. You can't coach without ever having stepped on the field and been a player. So there's a really big experiential component to being a coach or being a trainer. And yet, you take everything that you've learned and you're trying to pass it on to other people, but the people that you're training don't necessarily have the same background or the same knowledge or experience as you. And so we talk about it in the sense of being able to connect, being able to empathize, being able to help someone develop. You really have to get to know them. You really have to understand, how to push their buttons, how to get the best out of them. And I was always really interested in that, from the perspective of the different coaches that I worked with. So you touched on it a little bit. You said there were some big differences between, the women's side and the men's side. What I'm curious about is what stands out to you as having been really big challenges in coaching women versus being men, or in coaching kids versus women. Like, what stood out to you as being something that you really had to lean into and grow about because it just wasn't your own experience? What did you have to figure out in order to be able to coach different, groups of people?
Well, I think, every generation changes. I think at the beginning, when I grew up, you just did what the coach told you, and you didn't ask the reasons why you're doing it, how you're going to do it, things like that. If he told you had to do a 2-mile run under 12 minutes, I mean, that was the thing that you had to do. Now I think with the athletes of today, I mean, they want to understand, why they're doing this. And there's different ways of motivating kids these days that, you have technology. I'm not saying that the kids are different than the kids growing up, but I think, what I always try to instill in you guys is work ethic. If you don't work hard at anything, you're not going to be successful in life. And, looking at your team and a lot of the kids I coached in the past, there's times where I put you guys in some uncomfortable situations, with some of the sprinting and some of the things necessary to be successful. But yeah, I look back and, there's cases with players on the team in the past that are successful and mentally tough to handle a boss that's very critical, or a situation that happens in life, that we're all going to have to deal with, and be able to move forward in this, instead of dwelling in those past situations that might affect them if they weren't mentally tough. So I think the differences are, I think in those days you didn't have as much parent involvement. even in club soccer, I mean, the parents would get them there and they'd say yes to everything. Now, if they don't like that their kid's not getting playing time or something like that, they'll just go to another club. So, I think in the olden days, there was more loyalty, in regards to it. You're committed to this guy, you're going to stay. I mean, you see it in college sports right now. If you're a good player and, in your situation, you were a great goaltender, you could have played at any Division I school, in my opinion. So you could have put your name on the portal and there would be nothing I can do about it. Where in the past, I had to get a release from me and from the school to even go anywhere. So that 1 year you had to find finances to, basically pursue that other school. So I think things have changed in regards to that. So I think kids, parents expected you, if you made a verbal commitment, you had to commit for 4 years. So I think that's one of the difficulties for coaches these days is they'll bring somebody in that nobody recruited. They end up showcasing themselves, and then the following year they leave to go to a bigger, better school. So in regards to, I think as a coach, you change, you have to evolve. I think as a personal trainer, you're learning from different people, different coaches. When I won the championship with you guys, that was my biggest accomplishment. But, all I knew to do, man mark, play good defense and counterattack and be good on set pieces. Where now, I'm more about keeping the ball, building out of the back. If your goaltender doesn't have good feet, which you might have struggled with, right?
You're never gonna let that go, are you? Hey, guys, I screwed up a pass one time and the ball went in the net. That was my biggest mistake in 4 years, and it's been how many years, and he's still holding it over my head. That's fair.
Hey, I got to dig you a little bit on these video chats, but I mean, I think my philosophy in soccer now is if you play the right way, I'm a big believer that if you have the ball, there's more fun in having the ball than not having the ball. So if you're defending the whole time, that can't be an enjoyable thing as a player. And if you lose games because of that, then I think in a long run, you're going to see more success. I have a U13 team that, we started this season. We played in a U.S. Academy, which is one of the biggest soccer venues for youth kids in America. And, we would lose games 6-0, 7-0. And me and Nathan, the coaching staff, we were just teaching kids to play the right way. And then recently, the tides turned where we beat Minnesota's MLS Academy 2-0 and 1-2-0. So the kids are starting to buy into, playing the right way and breaking lines and doing the right thing as a player, which we always tell them it's not important what you do at 13. It's what's important, where you're at 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
So, I think as a coach, I think that's the difference. Before it was more about results, and now it's more about just developing individual players. And if every individual is a good player, then the whole team's going to be better because of it.
Yeah, there's so many good parallels in there, and I wanted to have this conversation for a lot of reasons. But when I think about how people end up as personal trainers, a lot of time it's because they come from an athletic background, right? When you're a kid and you play sports, you get given lots of advantages, not just the physical component, but the mental toughness, the teamwork, just building your own self-confidence, right? You get a lot of things out of playing sports, and those are really those are talents that you can build on and grow and develop in order to maybe end up in a career where you're a coach or a trainer or something like that, where physicality is part of what you do. But there's a lot of really great lessons in what you're talking about that I sort of want to pull out and maybe spend a little bit of extra time on, because one of the challenges that I see young trainers face when they start working is, one, the majority of their clients are older than they are. And so there's, like, when you're a coach, you're an adult, and when you're a kid and you're playing, it kind of makes sense that you would do what you're told. Like, the coach is already the boss by definition of age. And yet when you get into a training role, there's a shift. I remember being in my 20s with most of my clients in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And yet I'm the one that's supposed to know things and decide how things are going to go and create structure and hold accountability and kind of be the boss to a certain extent, right? So when we look at what it takes to be able to stand up in front of a group, your philosophy is learn how to play the right way. You've got to instill, hard work ethic, teamwork, right? You've got to instill some of these values. Your philosophy is you're playing the long game. And I think what happens a lot to trainers is they know the science, they know the long game. It's taken them this long to build up their own physical skills and their aesthetic and whatever. And then they start trying to apply that message for a client, but that difference in age, the client maybe is resistant to it, or no, I don't want to do that, or no, that's hard. And sometimes for the trainer, it's really tough to stick to your philosophy. You might really believe in warming up properly and mobility, and we've got to have good technique to avoid injury. And then all of a sudden we're working with someone that's like, no, let's just go squat today. So hanging on to your philosophy can be a challenge at any stage. For you, it's like you want your kids to win, but you want them to play the right way. You want to try to build a team. You have to deal with parents. So there's always these different factors that are sort of pressing on whether you can stick to your guns, whether you can do what you believe in, but then also having to adjust and adapt to the people that you're working with. So I think the challenge gets magnified when you're working with a group, because now the dynamics of what each person needs are a little bit different. You've got to figure out how to get superstars to share with the rest of the team, because no one person can win a game. You've got to figure out how to balance the super loud extroverted person with the quiet, shy, introverted person. So in addition to what you're managing on the field, where you're trying to have the game go a certain way, where you're trying to get your team to play a certain way, can you talk a little bit about what it was like to manage the fact that we all live together on campus, we all have school, we have family, we have soccer, we have all this stuff going on, but the whole element of teamwork, the whole element of managing people is that there's a lot more happening than just pass the ball, shoot the ball, sprint. What's it like having to sort of manage all of the components of what's going on in your athletes' lives? They look up to you, they take guidance from you, you're setting direction. How do you juggle all those different components?
Well, I think that's the toughest thing, is to somehow build team chemistry. And some years you have it, some years you don't. It all depends on your leadership. I think we had some good leaders. I think when we talk to captains in that, we always tell them, if you have a team dinner in that, make sure everybody's there. Make sure you include everybody, and and if you socialize, do it together. I remember the one time when you guys, I think it was in Florida or something like that, you guys all socialized, and I didn't know about it till after the fact. But the bottom line is I couldn't suspend all you guys because all you guys were together. And some people would look at that, hey, they broke rules and things like that. I looked at it differently. I looked at it, hey, that's a together group. If they're going to win, they're going to win together. If they're going to lose or get suspended, they're going to get suspended together. So, that was a special group. And sometimes you do a lot of team chemistry things now. I think coaches try to do a lot of that. Relationships are really important. When I look back at my career, I think that was something I wasn't very good at. I would have relationships with the players that played a lot, but I should have had relationships with the players that didn't play either, because they were just as important as the players that started every game too. So, I think you'll learn as a coach that, I think in this day and age, the relationships that you have with players are probably more important than wins and losses, because down the road that's what they're going to remember you by. They're going to remember the good moments and things like that. But if you had a good relationship and somehow you motivated them, in life somehow, then that's going to have more impact on them than winning soccer games. So I think it's a tough thing. And some years you have it, some years you don't. It's really tough when you're losing. Losing's contagious. So, when losing happens, you got to be a little bit more positive. Just as a coach myself, controlling my anxiety and getting upset and thinking you can correct every mistake a kid makes on the field. you know, the older you get, you realize you can't do that. And you focus on things that you can control, like watching the other team tactically and what adjustments can you make to win that game. Educating the kids in regards to, I'll give you an example. We're doing a lot of Zoom reports with our kids. And one of the things I do is give them a scouting report so the kids can look at 5 different areas of the game. So we have them scout the opponent where, you know, they have to scout what organization they have on defense, on offense, what do they do in offensive transition, defensive transition, and also set pieces, and then different attitudes during the game, you know, in regards to the coach and you know, maybe some kids that are too emotional and things like that. So we give them a good list of questions to kind of educate them in regards to reading the game a little bit and understanding what they can do as players or as a team better. So watching video is great. You know, we didn't have that tool very often. I mean, now you can do all kinds of video analysis. They have a thing called Instat. They have a company now called Trace, where it traces everything and then sends an individual video to each player. You know, so as a goaltender, you would get every clip you had to watch yourself in regards to how you can get better. You know, so you know, those are different things as a coach, I think, that you can do to improve players. The technology definitely helps, but I think you know, you got to give them reasons why they have to get fit, and show them examples, and give them reasons why you can't dribble out of the back, you know, and give them examples. You know, like the biggest problem with kids these days is they think they have to touch the ball 7 times before they release it. So, you know, I always tell, you know, if you hear me, I'll go, hey, simple's more important. You know, if you play as a team, you know, I don't mind people being creative, but there's certain moments on the field where they have to. So, you know, I'm still passionate about the game, still learning about the game every day. I'm, you know, trying to learn, you know, get on a website, you know, invest money into good coaches. There's a lot of good coaches out there that you can learn from. And even though, you know, I'm at that age where that people would say I'm over the hill, I see coaches at 65 getting Premier League jobs. So I'm still pretty ambitious in regards to being a coach, and always looking to learn.
That's awesome. I mean, that's one thing we see time and time again. What it takes to stay engaged and sustain a career long term is being humble and looking for ways to learn, and being, you know, always be willing to grow, not thinking you've got the perfect formula. So I think that's really cool to see. I had a kind of slightly different topic question. When you recruit, when you look for people that are going to play for you, obviously there's a level of skill or talent or experience that you're looking for. But what else do you think makes a great teammate? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question, because when we look at the opportunities to go be a trainer, go be a coach, there's different ways of doing it. You can work fairly independently, but you can also work in a bigger team setting. And I've always been more successful myself when I'm working in a team. I've done both. And it's not that I can't be an independent trainer. I'm not driven to be my best when I'm by myself. So I'm always really curious about team dynamics. And when I was managing a club, you know, I sort of figured that a big part of my job was make the team a better team. And then each player, each person will go and do their job better. So if you had to pick a few characteristics, or if you had to describe sort of what you're looking for, what do you think makes a great team player? What do you think makes a great teammate?
Wow. Well, I think you have to lead by example, first of all. All right. So if you're a hard worker, and you're always fit and you're always ready, I think that shows the rest of the team that you care about the team, and that you care about doing the things necessary to be successful, regardless if you're playing or you're not. There's a lot of kids that were, I would say, you know, walk-ons that came on board that didn't play a lot, that did the right things to get ready for the team, but also were very positive on the sideline and pushed the kids in practice, and when things won't going right, put their hand around them and, give them some support to move on. That's, I think that's great because that eliminates some of the things I have to do as a coach, which I should do, but I don't think I was very good at it. So, we had Jamie to kind of be like a buffer for that, but I think to be a good teammate, you have to be that also. And you also have to be there for him off the field too, because there's a lot of pressures in school and there's a lot of things going on besides soccer. So I think it was important to be a good friend and get to know everybody on the team, and that makes a good teammate, in my opinion. One of the things I look for is, and I think as a coach you grow, is their attitude in practice. I think one of the things coaches will do and watch games, and they'll see them in one game or two games, and they're a great athlete and a good soccer player, but what attitude did they have in practice away from you watching them? There's a lot of coaches out there, when you actually recruit, they're going to do everything possible to get the kid a scholarship. So sometimes I feel like you can't really believe every club coach. You have to go there and evaluate the kid at a practice and see what they do in the practice, see what they do in a warm-up, see all those little small details that are going to tell you in regards to how they are as a teammate and what their character is. And if their character's about work ethic, doesn't matter who's around, then they're going to be a great player and a great teammate. One of the things I also look at is when we had official visits, how a kid reacts to their parents. If the mom's talking and they roll their eyes, or they tell the mom to be quiet, or things like that, that's a red flag to me. Just because I think, if they're not respecting their parents, they're definitely not going to respect the coach or the teammate. And when I look back at some of the troubles I had with players, I can remember those visits, and I can remember those kids doing those things to their parents. So I think as a coach, you're looking for character, and if you have good character, you'll be a great teammate. And to be honest, I mean, your team, I think everybody liked each other, regardless of where they came from, things like that. And everybody had their issues and personalities, but in the long run, you guys respected each other on and off the field. And, kudos to you. You were a great teammate and you were a great leader. So I think you were a big part of that team, having the success that they have. So I think in the position that you're in, I think you're only going to be, I think you'll be a great trainer. I think you're going to be a big positive person in regards to people changing their attitude in regards to physical fitness. So it was great to see you doing something like this. I thought you would be a doctor, something you're intelligent to do anything you wanted to do. So, but, it doesn't surprise me that you're doing this.
Well, it was funny when we were back a couple of years ago for the Hall of Fame thing. It was nice to see everybody. I mean, 10 years goes by and you don't really realize. But what was sort of funny is as I was reconnecting with everybody, they all have jobs and families and they've moved, and it was really cool to see, everything that's changed. And then at the same time, they were all going, oh yeah, I see what you're doing on, Instagram or whatever. You're still yelling at people and making them do workouts. So I'm kind of still doing the exact same thing. Like when we were in the gym together as a team working out, I was the one that was always like, come on, who you are in the gym, it's who you are on the field. Like I was losing my mind, trying to motivate people. And I'm still doing the same thing. So I guess I just found what I was good at early and found a way to keep doing it. But like you said, always learning, always growing, taking advantage of, the people around you, what you can learn from them. And it's crazy. I've learned as much from my students and my clients as I have from going to courses and being around, presenters and stuff like that. So, I'm sure you feel the same way. You've probably learned from your players just as much as you've learned from, fellow coaches and stuff like that. So just to wrap things up, I'm curious, tell me a little bit about what you're doing now. I know you're still coaching, but you've also got some other stuff on the go. So in the sense of how you stay engaged and how you keep doing what you're doing, what are some of the things that you're passionate about and working on these days?
Well, a couple things that I'm still with the club, so I'm still doing the Vardar thing, helping my brother out and being the technical director. But I did invent a coaching board, and it came from my coaching experience of having magnets always fall out and stuff. So I invented a board called it's nltacticalboard.com, and what it is, magnets are instilled in a glass that goes on top of it, and you can never lose them. And you use a pen to move the magnets around, and you can write on the acrylic with your dry eraser board. So I told the guy in Windsor, he's a coach in our club, he was making boards already, and I go, listen, can we do something like this? So we have a patent on that, and there's a lot of coaches that really enjoy it, just because they felt the same thing I felt in regards to buying these boards every year, because you're always losing the magnets. Now you can never lose the magnets, and it's a well-built material. And then we're even looking to do locker rooms and things like that. So I got one of those things going on, but I also started, this time has been great, because what I'm doing now is instructional videos. I started a company, an individual private training company called CST 90 Pro. What basically is complete soccer training. But what I'm trying to do is, by using these videos, kind of give them, I got the idea from P90X. It was a workout program, great workout program. I did that.
You did all the time, right, Mike? That was like every morning you were up doing your P90X,
No,
right?
no, 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 not now. But when I did it, I was very impressed in regards to, if you really did it, how
Yeah.
fit you really can be, and how mixing up the exercises and things would make you a better player. So basically what I did was, we're setting up all these videos. I want to instill the attitude of self-discipline off the soccer field. So I'll give these kids a video, maybe a workout program, so I'm trying to work on all the 4 components. Polar, I'm big on sports science now. So I have this Polar Ignite that monitors my sleep levels, monitors my heart rate when I work out, where I can monitor the kids off the field. So if I meet them once a week, what are they doing the 5 other days? Fitness-wise, technical-wise, and kind of instill that discipline in regards to, these are the things, 4 components you have to do: the technical, the physical, the nutritional part's very important. And then kind of like even some of the mental part, the visualization, having that attitude. But and I know, if you're physically fit and you're technically sound, you're going to be very confident. So the mental part is going to be taken care of, because you're doing a lot of the things off the field. And my passion is going to be to try to develop the next Messi, try to develop the next best player in our country, but it's going to have to be a commitment from them also. I think that's the biggest problem you have these days, is kids just come to our practices and they think, well, that's how I'm going to be the next great player. Or they'll go into, I see a lot of programs out there where they're just taking $35, putting 15 guys together, doing a passing drill, and then saying, hey, make sure you come back next week. I even had that with a strength coach tell me once, when I went in there. We did some strength work twice a week, and a new strength coach came in. His name was Sean Williamson, I believe. And he told me, he goes, Mike, if you're going to be strong, you got to do this every day. I mean, this can't be twice a week and thinking you're going to get strong. So he basically made a point to get the girls in every day from Monday through Friday, to do at least a half an hour of strength work. So those are 2 things I'm working on right now with the club. But my passion is going to be to, stay on top of these kids, try to motivate them, try to give them a program where they can get better technically and become better players on their own, and kind of build that self-discipline, just like probably some of the things that you do as a fitness coach, that even though they see you, some of the things that you're telling them they have to do off the field. And I think in the long run, if I can get this program going, I think that's the right direction in regards to developing players in this country. Because I don't think we do a good enough job. I think our kids are they have to do these things off the field to be more passionate, like, so they can catch up to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the things, sort of being in the land of opportunity. There's so many things you can do, and yet the rule is 10,000 hours to mastery. So if you do 1,000 hours of 10 things, you're like mediocre at a bunch of stuff. But to really find something that you're passionate about, and to really focus and spend that extra time is what helps you get there. So I don't know if I'm going to ask you at the end if you've got some books or anything that you want to share. But one of the things I talk about a lot with my students, my team, whatever, is the sooner you get your 10,000 hours in, or the sooner you get your 10,000 reps of practice in, the sooner you operate and train and coach and execute at a higher level. So the idea is, at least for me, where this comes from is like, you don't have to take 30 certifications in a year, because then you're going to be very mediocre at all of them. If you take 1 or 2 every year, so you take one in January, February, and then you spend like 3, 4, 5 months working on what you've learned. So say it's like TRX, you got to spend months being the client, and you've got to understand how to do stuff. You've got to go through the progression of getting better. You've got to understand the nuances of what's available, and then start to turn around and use it with your people. But the rule applies to almost anything. If you want to be really good at something, there's no amount of talent that trumps putting in the work. So you can have talent, absolutely. But if talent doesn't work hard, working hard, people that work hard beat those that have talent. And it comes down to just being plugged in. So I think having a coach that inspires you, or that can guide you or lead you or push you, or, if you develop a relationship with your coach, your trainer, and you really understand each other, you get to that level of why we're doing what we're doing. It lends itself to that dedication and to that patience and to that mastery. And then when you see your players doing really well, you get passionate about giving them more. When you see that what your coach is telling you to do is working, then you pay more attention, right? So it feeds itself. But we sort of want to find kind of how to hone in on what it is that's going to be worth spending that time doing. And so I don't have anything against people exploring and experimenting, but I really have something against people giving up just because it's hard. So you can explore and experiment, but no matter what you do, there's going to be a moment where you're challenged. There's going to be a moment where it's tough. There's going to be a moment where you don't just naturally, pick it up. And the people that will find the way to success are the ones that can stick through that discomfort, have some grit, right? And get through it. Yeah. Learn, be open, be humble. You don't have to be perfect, but you got to keep showing up. So, whether it's sport, whether it's fitness, whether it's a career, whatever it is, you got to have it's funny, this is going to come up a bunch. You got to have the grit to not quit when it sucks. And if you can get through it, then you're going to come out the other side and have ownership of something that a lot of people don't, which then sets you apart. So there's something to be said for having a coach like yourself that someday, man, Tuesday mornings when we did those damn full field sprints, like, I don't think I'll ever forget that. And yet there's been very little in my life since then that has felt harder. So knowing that, that one day we lost to Oakland and you made us do 22, there's really nothing in my life that has felt harder and more unfair than that. And yet, having done it and suffered through it and gotten to the other side, and then, gone on to see that, oh yeah, okay, we were a little out of shape. And if we can run to the end of the game, then we're not going to lose, in the last couple of minutes. It made a big difference to have that lesson, and it's translated into a lot of things. So I don't think I would have thanked you for it at the time, but it's been a little while, and I've got some perspective. And I can look back now and say that it was really meaningful to have a tough coach who basically saw what you were able to do and was going to get it out of you one way or the other. Right. So it comes down to seeing the potential and really wanting to help someone be able to draw it out. So thank you all these years later. Who'd have thunk, huh?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. It was nice talking to you, but to get back to that gritty part, I mean, the reason why you guys were successful is that we were a gritty team, we're a tough team to play against. You guys waited for your moments. I mean, I tell people all the time, you have a good goaltender, you stopped that penalty shot, which was huge, so that got us over the top. But, and that's what I'm trying to instill. The better players, like when you look at all the best athletes, everybody thinks the Kobe Bryants, the Wayne Gretzky's, and the Williams sisters, and those type of athletes that they were just gifted. They weren't just gifted. I mean, you read books on Wayne Gretzky's dad making him get up in the morning and skating before he went to school, every day in Brantford. You hear about Kobe Bryant getting up at 4 in the morning so he can get that extra 2 hours. The Williams sisters, the dad, bring him to tennis courts that didn't even look like tennis courts. Those are the things that you just mentioned that I'm trying to instill in these kids. Because these kids do have all the opportunity and have all the tools and have all the finances to be great players, but they don't have the passion that the kids in Europe have. The kids in Europe, when you look, I'm watching a video, Sutherland Till I Die on Netflix, and you see the passion of the fans and you see the passion of the kids growing up, and their day-to-day life is based on that game on Saturday. If they win, they feel good for the whole week. Everything that they do at work, we don't have that yet. And until we get that out of our kids, and until our coaches instill that in regards to what they do off the field, then I don't think, we're going to catch up to the rest of the world in regards to the sport. But I'm going to try to do the best I can to do that and try to create a player like Davies that went to Bayern Munich. He had that passion. So, but it was great talking to you, great catching up to you. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to probably get in touch with you in regards to some of the fitness things.
I hope you do. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Especially as an ex-player and, some nutritional things, that could even help me out at my age.
So just to wrap it up, Mike, I just wanted to ask you if you had any books that you think are really, really good, whether it's coaching philosophy or mental mindset or leadership. If you had any books or podcasts or resources that you've learned a lot from, always try to ask for a couple things for people to go chase if they liked what you were talking about. So I know I'm kind of throwing this at you, but off the top of their head, do you have anything that you would recommend?
There's a leadership book by Extreme Leadership. All right. It's from Jocko.
Is that Extreme Ownership?
Yeah, Extreme Ownership. Yeah. That's I'm a big believer. I mean, I'm a big believer that people in the military, they develop that structure, that mental toughness, the things like that. I think he's one of the best guys out there in regards to that. In regards to, majority, there was one on mental combat that I read, was a similar type of person in the military that works on your mindset in regards to building confidence. But a lot of the things that we talked about is you gain confidence by your work ethic off the field. So makes things a lot easier. When you get on the field, people go, well, she's going to be an All-American because she's talented. Well, she's not an All-American because she's just talented. She's All-American because she took 1,000 shots the other day. So, those type of mindsets, but that's, if I would recommend a book for people to read, that would be one. I think Joe Toffrey, an ex-strength coach, there's a motivational guy that says, gets on the bus. I think he used that. I forget what the guy's name was, but he always asked us, hey, are we all on the bus together and things like that. So I think he used a lot of the motivational information from that book. Also, I don't have it right now, but I would go with that one. Extreme Ownership is probably one of the best ones I've read out there so far. So.
For sure. Love it. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap up. And I can say again, just from experience, there was definitely some of that structure on our team. And we worked hard more than we were talented, and we had grit when other people were kind of looking to give up. And it's the lessons that I learned in my university career, I think have served me really well. So thank you for setting some time aside. I know you're a busy guy, but I appreciate the conversation. Nice to rehash on some things, and really cool for me to see that you're still, still doing what you're great at, but also, finding ways to be creative and reinvent yourself and keep growing. So I don't think there's any limit when it comes to age. I think it comes down to, if you're passionate, you've got a reason to get up in the morning and go do great work, then you can do that. And so it's really cool to see you, continuing to do that. So thank you again so much. I'm excited to put this out and kind of show people a little bit of, one of my formative mentors. This is, you were the man at the helm in a 4-year period of my life where I learned a ton and got to see the fruition of all that hard work turn into, winning a championship. So got a lot of love for you, Mr. Lupenec. So thank you very much for taking a chance on me all those years ago and being a great coach, and love seeing what you're doing as you continue. So thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. Great to catch up.
Well, you're welcome, and I appreciate it. And we love you too, Dupes. Right?
Awesome.
We'll always love what you did for the program, and I'm excited to see what you're looking to do in the future. And you're right, 58's the new 58's the new 28 in my opinion. So I'll be coaching until I'm 70, hopefully, if my health stays good.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, boss. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Bye.